Hey everybody. Thought today I'd try to take on the abortion debate. Um, First thing, I let's just get to the point because I meander a little too much. I think abortion is probably wrong in all cases. However, I don't think it should be criminal, and I think a person should always have the right to choose it in all cases whatsoever. Um, you immediately jump on a fine line issue. What about like in the eighth month of pregnancy or something like that? Well, the norms of society and the professional judgment of doctors, start to click in those cases. And a doctor who crosses a line too far could be subject to a jury trial, and reasonable citizens will have to make a decision about that. But in the first couple of months of the pregnancy, there would be obviously never ever be any questions. Okay, so how come I feel this way about it, and what other commentary do I have to offer? Oh God, I've been puzzling over the abortion debate, for a very long time. I mean, I read the decision Roe versus Wade. Not that I understood it very well because it had a lot of legal jargon in it, but I understood it well enough 30 plus years ago. And so I've been thinking about it. I remember reading Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 1992, reading what the Catholic Church has to say about it, what other, more liberal mainstream churches have to say about it, and on and on and on. And the question is, in first place, is abortion always a sin? Well, what is even sin? Okay, sin is an a model for our behavior in light of the fact that there's an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God that has created the world. And by extension, us. Through the creation of the world, we came into existence in this world because God chose to create this world. Did God know that we were going to come into existence? I postulate that he didn't know. You see, God can obviously create a universe where he knows everything that's going to happen. That goes without saying. God can do that. I have a theory, and this has been my point for actually quite a long time, that he can also create a universe where he doesn't know what's going to happen. And again, forgive my use of the pronoun he. Years of Christian theology, just make it so natural for me to call God a he, even though, God transcends gender, surely. So he can make a universe where he doesn't even know what's going to happen. And then the question can become, can he see all the possibilities of everything that can happen? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is not necessarily. God is so all powerful that he can make whatever universe he wants, even one that's outside of his necessary ability to understand what's going to happen, to judge whether or not he even likes it. And it's probably interesting, because if he already knows what's everything that's going to happen in the universe, would it be particularly interesting to him? I mean, I'd say no. And so, and I think it's good for us to think this way, we human beings. I think it's good for us to think this way, that we have such a awesome freedom of choice to decide what we're going to do. And the concept of sin, as a model for our behavior in light of the existence of that all-powerful God, is a good concept to use to try to think through things, but it can be very limiting. And maybe there are better methods, better ways of trying to understand the world. What the bait and switch tactic that happens by so many religions is one that goes sort of like this: since God exists and since I'm his representative, you have to do what I tell you to do. Now I can control you and take your money and get you to do what I want you to do. I think all the religions are permeated with this problem. That doesn't mean that religion is bad. I mean, I could do all kinds of things. Like there's an all-powerful, all-loving God, and therefore you should worship him. And since you should worship him, you need to pray, 18 times a day. And these are the prayers you should, because don't you love God? I mean, in the first place, just because there's an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God, do you need to worship that all-powerful, all-knowing God? No. Do we know if he wants you to? We don't, in a way. There are people who claim it, but are they right? So I mean, so you getting all the way back to the beginning. If you want to understand God, I think you need to deeply understand ourselves. You need to deeply understand the world. You need to study mathematics and combination theory. You need to study the laws of physics. You need to study and then look for the things that we don't understand. And so in light of his existence, in light of the fact that for 100,000 years people looked up at the beauty of the night sky and could not figure out that the moon goes around the earth for the same reason that an apple falls and hits the ground, except the moon has centrifugal force to keep it in orbit. The great revelation of Newton, that the apple hits the ground for the same reason the moon is up there. It's the great revelation, the great discovery of Newton. For 100,000 years, our species has been in this perpetual state of not knowing what the truth is about anything until we started to slowly but surely discover things, and slowly but surely we became certain about what is true. So, in the end, so so in light of our unknowingness about God, and the only assumption, the only postulate, the only axiom I think we should accept, and there's many ways to say this idea. Well, I believe that God exists, and he's all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-loving. In a way, more all-powerful than he is all-knowing and all-loving, because, he can make a decision to do what he wants to. Anyway, after that, all bets are off. You know what I'm saying? Another way to restate it is that you're going to be judged when you die. So you can sit there and say, I don't know about God, but I know that when I die, I'm going to be judged. And so how are you going to be judged? Well, by obviously good human logic, you can figure that out. You don't do anything that would, make any assumptions in that regard. Like my judgment's going to be dependent upon whether or not I said the words that I need to say to become a Muslim, or my judgment depends upon whether or not I received Christian baptism, or my judgment depends whether or not I decided to play Monopoly last night. I mean, judgment based upon human logic. Did you confer truth to somebody who deserved the truth? Did you tell them what actually happened about something that was important for them to know? Did you, lend money or give money to somebody who was really in need and really deserved to have that money? You know what I mean? Did you, on and on and on and on and on. Did you visit people in prison or not visit people in prison? Because it was important not to. I mean, there's all kinds of more important things that you should use to judge yourself and what's going to happen to you when you go before God on at some point after you die. Thinking this way, I think most people think this way. I mean, even the most psychopathic among us, even the most evil among us, probably have it in the back of their minds. I'm going to die someday, and then what happens? They got that somewhere in the back of their mind. And some people, revel in the fact that they're going to go to hell now. They wear T-shirts, say I'm going to hell. It's like, okay, I guess you are. And we have to watch for those. I suppose we have to watch for those people. Okay, so in light of the fact that there's an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving God, in light of the fact that in the modern era, abortion is something that you can, is readily available in many places through a doctor or through drugs or whatever. In light of that fact, and then for any given person would have a whole set of reasons for maybe wanting to have an abortion. We could play out those reasons to the nth degree. I mean, the most absurd cases come to mind. A woman a scientist who is on the verge of curing cancer, walks to the parking lot and is raped by a serial rapist, a month later, she finds out she's pregnant with a baby that has genetic defects. And it's like on and on and on. It's like, okay, yeah, but it's wrong for her to have an abortion. Okay, then people will be like, okay, well, abortion should therefore be legal in cases of rape. Well, do you know how many more instances of rape are going to be reported now? Yeah, I was raped. Well, who raped you? Well, I can't really tell you that, but I was raped. So you create this powerful need. A person powerfully, perceives that they have a strong need for an abortion, and now you're going to create a system where they're forced to lie in order to get what they need. And then the government resources that would be put into place to investigate it, to look into it, and it's a mess. It's an utter mess. Better to leave it to the decision making of the relevant parties, and just simply make it legal. I'm not saying, and it's quite possible that when God looks down on this world, God sees every abortion that ever happened and didn't like any of them. That's very possible. But I don't know. Nor do you. Nor does any church. Nor does anybody. You don't know. And so we have to make the best decisions we can in light of our understanding. There was an old heresy of the Catholic Church. There was an old heresy of the early Christianity that says that Jesus was the product of a rape. Look it up. It's somewhere on the internet, I'm sure. And that there's even a Roman soldier that raped Mary. There's a Roman soldier that's you can go to his gravestone, the father of Jesus. And this is, of course, a direct contradiction to the teachings of the church because the Immaculate Conception and all that stuff. But interesting about that story, the heresy, the one that's theoretically not true, is a woman gets raped and decides to have the child anyway, and decides to love that child as much as she possibly can, and that child grows up and destroys the very system that caused her rape. The Roman Empire invading and taking over, Jerusalem and that whole area. You follow me? And doing whatever they wanted because they can, and the very downfall of that system was a woman making a choice to love the product of a rape. I mean, that's a kind of a poetic story in a way. I mean, personally, I can think of any woman that I've ever known in my life who got pregnant because of a rape. I think an abortion's the right choice. I would definitely encourage it. There's no question, And if she chose to have the child, God bless her. Do everything I can to help her. Whatever. It's a choice. And it should definitely be left to the people. Now, when I look at the debate prior to the new Supreme Court decision that made abortion illegal in some places because laws that other states had were suddenly, enforceable now. When I look at the abortion debate through the years, one thing that used to bother me, it bothered me all the other place, is just, the way the Republicans would use it. They know a lot of people don't have the time to think through the complexity of the debate. So they simplify it really easily. They're ripping babies from the womb. Shut up about abortion. Don't talk about it. Why the hell do you want to teach 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds about that idea? That it's possible, that you can do it. And even if you made it illegal, you aren't going to stop it from happening. We all know that. There's technology advances. So many people out there with the skill to do it, and they're going to be willing to doctor the books and make it look like it was a miscarriage, whatever. It's just shut up about it. See, I have a feeling on the right, and I'll get to the left in a second, but I have a feeling that on the right, the Donald Trump era and prior to that, it was just simply a winning issue for them. That's it. Abortion was just simply a winning issue for them. They looked at the people of the United States of America, as intelligent as many people are. It's a complex argument. It's a very difficult argument to work your mind through. You follow? And simplicity usually gets in the way. because you want to have a simple answer to such a complex solution. It's just wrong in all cases. It's just simply wrong in all cases. Then it cuts through the nonsense. And so, Republicans have been able to, Republicans to sit there. I mean, I don't want to judge the man too hard, but Donald Trump's sitting up there saying, they're ripping babies from the womb. Do you really think he cares? He doesn't, of course. Many Republicans that were anti-abortion did it because it was something that gets you elected. They could care less. And now, in terms of people with religious insanity, I knew somebody that believed, that America is being haunted by the spirits of 40 million unborn babies, and it's going to bring the demise of America. There's a lot of stupid people out there. On the left, I mean, you get these situations about people making jokes about abortion as a way, I suppose, of pushing back upon the right. You know what I mean? Again, I just don't think any of that's kind of appropriate. The best possible outcome of the abortion debate is that it's legal. And that we just don't talk about it. That's the best choice. Just make it legal and just don't talk about it. And whatever obvious other contours that come through the medical profession and or basic legislation, like, those fine line points, set it at the third trimester or the fifth month or the eighth month or whatever the case might be, then fine line cases are just decided upon based upon the professional judgment of a doctor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Every now and then, you have a William Gossett that winds up going to prison for doing abortions because he also had a dirty abortion place or something like that. Those kinds of things happen. But to waste time protesting it in either direction, just seems just absurd to me. And again, I guess there's so many other points. There's so many other points that I want to make about this, but I'm running out of steam for it. I really think that, again, in the final analysis, the best decision that we can make about the topic is to ignore it completely. Simply make it legal. Ignore it completely, and recognize that it's perfectly appropriate for a person to consider abortion to be distasteful. It's a waste of resources. It's just not something it's worth. It's not something that's good. You don't want it for anyone. If I had a daughter, I don't. But if I had a daughter, I certainly couldn't imagine her wanting her, ever wanting her to be in a position where she needed to have an abortion. But I can absolutely see why she could be in that position. And if she was, I would absolutely need her to do it. Would actually support her in any way that I could. I would support her, of course, if she chose to have the child. Oh God, would I? And that's a kind of a funny thing. The nature of evil in this world. Sometimes you got to think Satan exists. Sometimes you just got to think it. And I'm going to talk about Satan at some point here, and as I go through these videos, whether or not Satan actually exists or not, and a model for him. But it sounds to me like the same voice that tells you, don't have sex before marriage. The same voice that tells you to, and if you do, there's serious consequences for you. Is the same voice that's going to whisper to you, oh, it's no big deal. Have sex before marriage, or or whatever the case might be. The same voice that tells you, how could you have had that abortion? Imagine all the futures that could have happened. Imagine how old that baby would be now if you've had it. Now it'd be 10 years old going to school. But are you taking care of it anymore? No, because you were selfish. The same voice that says that to you is the same voice that puts you in the compromising situation that you were in the first place. It's like, the very same evil that sets the rule is the very same evil that judges you that gives you an inappropriate judgment about yourself or about life after the fact. I always wondered about that. It's like, how could you do it? All the while, they were the ones that pushed you to do it. And that goes for people with a lot of resources, particularly. Some young, or even older woman gets pregnant. And then you can say, well, she shouldn't have done that in the first place. And you're like, do you ever understand how hard life is and how much you want sex and how much you want to do something with your life? You know what I mean? And choices are made, choices like that are made in times when you're not in full possession of all of your willpower and things of that sort, which is obvious, right? A woman, has an abortion. A woman gets pregnant, and then she's looking at the practical economic reality that she's in. She's in the practical economic, maybe having to take care of their kids, maybe all kinds of, maybe a sick parent or whatever. The difficulty of life, looking at the financial books, and they're like, I don't know how I can make ends meet. I don't know how I could do this. Everything seems so difficult. So many plans would have to change. So many things would get disrupted by me going down this process. All the while, people who have lots of money, lots of resources. I'm looking at you, rich Republican donor people. All these people with all this money and all these resources, creating the situations of poverty that force her into the decision in the first place, all the while telling her she can't do it. And then if she does it, she should be a servant, a slave in the fields doing nothing with her life. It's just all BS. There are, in my humble opinion, about God, the big kahuna, there's going to be many women, many people, many women who go before God, who have never had an abortion, who are going to be in a lot of trouble with God. And there's going to be a lot of women who go before God, who've had more than one abortion, who are going to be completely fine with God. And that's obvious. Yet all human logic suggests it. How can I say I know the mind of God? I can't. I'm doing the best I can in understanding what the thoughts of an all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving creator would be in light of everything I know about myself and existence. I'm making the best judgment of wisdom that I can possibly make based upon everything I know, everything I can imagine, every story I've heard of. Putting it all together in one moment and saying, that's got to be the mind of God on this. It is an act of simplicity, of idiotic simplicity, to go, oh, I see all those different possibilities, but I don't have to think about them because abortion's just always wrong. It's just not the way it works. Yeah, you need to hold on to the idea that you're going to be judged after you died. The judgment that we're going to undergo is one that is based upon the basic, simple logic of human thinking. That's it. Some people do something in different times, in different places, different ages. They're judged differently based upon the full set of circumstances so they're in it. And one last thing I want to say about judgment after you die and the judgment that we're all going to undergo. And again, how do I even know that's true? I don't. But I think it's, in the end, all my wisdom and logic says that is the smartest thing to believe. That you accept that one fact is an axiom. You're going to be judged after you die based upon the existence of an all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God. And that usually means, what that means directly, have you been good to other people? Have you been polite, kind? Have you been mean to other people when they needed you to be mean to them? Have you acted in the best possible way you can? In light of the truth, have you planted trees that you're never going to get the fruit from because future generation needs those trees? All of that stuff. you know, I'm rambling here. I don't even remember what I was going to say. Usually ends like that, doesn't it? So, yeah, that's in the final analysis. Shut up about abortion. Please just make it legal and just shut up about it. Don't use it as a political way to get votes, one way or the other. And, there's that. Okay.